Hello, and welcome to the first episode of I Need a Drink for That. I'm your host, Trey Blanton. Now, this will be a very simple podcast. Basically, last week, I kind of started having this idea for wanting to do just a few minute talk where I discuss whatever crazy lunacy is happening in the world that is just particularly rankling me. And since I've been going to graduate school in Paris, France, there's been a lot of that, a lot of things that I could comment on, but just didn't feel the need until recently to really need to have a drink over it and share my thoughts. But, lunacy in the university aside, there's a lot, but that'll be another video. What really piqued my interest this week is that apparently France has a high council. It's sort of one of those consultative commissions that, raises dialogue and critiques on some aspect of society that they want to see improved. And so this High Council for the Equality of Women and Men on Wednesday decided to publish their annual report. They've been doing this since 2017, I believe it was. And it's their annual sexism report. Now, when I first saw an article on this, it was in France 24, I saw the term masculinism. And at first I thought, well, that's cute. The feminists came up with their own word for men. And then I decided to take a step back and, think about it a little bit critically. And it's like, okay, let's be a little bit fair before we dive too deep into this article and report. Like, there are a bunch of dirtbag guys out there. I spent a few years as a cop, and sadly, one of my specialties, the crime I handled the most was actually family violence, known as domestic violence in other states. And so I know the behaviors that some men can have. And I even quit a job working for Catholic media because they ended up hiring some very misogynistic guys who would say things both within the building and then in commentaries that were very, sexist towards women. So I was like, okay, I get it to a point there. So let's kind of unpack what this article and report have to say and see what is there to it. Is there anything that's actually worrisome, or are they actually seeking to address violence against women? Well, yes and no. And this report actually is very dangerous, however, because in the report, they try to equate two different things, what they call paternalistic sexism and hostile sexism. Now, hostile sexism is what you'd expect if you attack a woman, like beat her up, or if you call her demeaning words, those things would be hostile sexism, and it makes complete sense. I mean, assault is a criminal offense and something that gets addressed. But this notion of paternalistic sexism is a little bit more troublesome because pretty much anybody who subscribes to traditional gender roles, where between husband and wife, where typically the husband works and the woman stays at home, takes care of the house, raises the children. If you look at a lot of Catholic text, though, what you really see is that that's between husband and wife. Sometimes it's necessary for the woman to work. Usually, try to make it a job that can be done in the home, so that the children can have that support of their mother. But, it's all dependent. And even if you look at St. Paul's epistles, he encourages the communities to support women who are in their particular vocations. And so that's never really been a big issue among Catholics who aren't misogynists. And trust me, like I said, there are some. There are the ones that just want women stuck in the home all day. And you know the types. And so what's troubling about this report, though, and it's very critical of the government of France because it's not doing enough to address all forms of misogyny, sexism, including what a lot of conservatives and traditional Christians would consider something that's perfectly natural in terms of gender roles. And there's nothing insulting by it. They use the term, falsely benevolent, because men within Christian circles actually care about women. We have a duty to protect women, support them, raise families, love them, bring them closer to God, all very important things. They call that falsely benevolent because, along the lines of perpetuating stereotypes and systems, the typical patriarchy nonsense. And so what's dangerous about this report is that the encouragement for France to do more is basically to treat anybody who has these kinds of views not just actual violence and being a dirtbag, basically. Like think of the Andrew Tates of the world. Uh, well, and he committed criminal offenses too. So yeah, he's just the worst of all bags. Bad example, terrible douchebag human being. Uh, that could be another topic because I don't care just about left wing lunacy. There's a lot of it on the right too. Yeah, the whole reason that I started the other podcast, Dear Men Love God, is so that I can actually talk with men about problematic figures like Andrew Tate, Nick Fuentes, and the like, where they're just proposing all this stupid BS. And that wasn't the most concerning thing to me. Was the concerning thing was reading a conservative article that was kind of justifying it. It was just telling like sort of the older conservatives, okay, those guys just aren't for you. They're out there for the young men. They're trying to raise them up in good old conservative values, but demeaning women is not conservative values. You can't try to. You're not going to sort of steer these, course correct these kids, these young men who are hearing garbage and then be like, okay, no, we're going to convert them to the true conservative movement, blah, blah, blah. That's the same conservative weakness that we've seen time and again, where it's just like, okay, we're just going to play along to get along and not actually stand up for what's right. So, yeah, problematic. And so going back to the original point is that all conservatives basically and Christians who with the traditional values are basically what they term misogynistic terrorists. That's their words. That's the words they have in their report that they do on their front page before you can click on the full thing, which is in French. So I can't give you all the information on what the report says because I don't speak French. And then also the analysis that was done in France 24 because that's able to be translated when you look it up. It's just laughable that, and it's the same kind of things that they tried to pull during the Biden administration when Catholics and other traditional Christians, were labeled as white supremacists. It's that same kind of playbook that they're running, where if you have any sort of what they consider a dangerous norm, anything that's dangerous to the progressive Marxist worldview, then you're automatically just a terroristic threat that needs to be taken care of. And so some of the solutions that they seem to be proposing to the French government is that they make sure that they catalog all the terminology that misogynists use so that they can be tracked online. And what they want intelligence agencies to treat their own citizens as if they were future aggressors, no matter what.